crack of noon. Layer the music and have a swoon. I can't stop thinking of your face. La la la.
Hey, sister.
Hey girl! Oh my god! I remember that book!
I know, right? I haven't looked at that in forever.
Wait, this is not our burn book. It's someone else's. Oh, hey guys! In case you're wondering, we're just talking about Friedrich Nietzsche's own version of the burn book.
If you want to know more about this book, then keep watching. But seriously, who is Friedrich Nietzsche? Why do I not know him?
Shut up. Shut up! You don't know who Friedrich Nietzsche is? He was born on October 15, 1844 in Rocken, Germany. He came from a puritanical and religious family. His father was a Lutheran minister, and he even studied theology and classical philology at the University of Bonn before transferring to Leipzig. He then became a professor of philology at the University of Basel. So what bothers me the most is how he became famous for criticizing religion, mainly Christianity, and even delivered the greatest criticisms ever on traditional morality. Mind you, if ever you are familiar with the famous slogan, "God is dead," it was from him. I know!
Oh, I remember him now. He also wrote Das Big Zarathustra in 1884, Beyond Good and Evil in 1886, which we will be talking about later, The Genealogy of Morals in 1887, The Antichrist in 1888, and The Will to Power in 1906. So fetch, right? Also, despite his works being underplayed by the English-speaking world, it is undeniable that he was so influential. Did you know that he influenced some famous people, including Thomas Mann, Hermann Hesse, Karl Jaspers, Martin Heidegger, Simon Freud, and Jean-Paul Sartre? Like you even know them.
Again, that is so fetch. But let's stop talking about that and focus on the real deal. Oh, you gotta hear about this. This has something to do with the book he released in 1886, The Beyond and Evil. Nietzsche's style in this book was provocative, forceful, and even aphoristic. He writes with intense passion, often making bold claims, shocking and challenging his readers. His use of aphorisms or brief but impactful phrases encourages his readers to think deeply about each idea instead of just passively reading. Indeed challenging. Moreover, his tone was confrontational and sometimes also accusatory, pushing to confront uncomfortable thoughts. This emotional intensity reflects on his strong dissatisfaction with traditional values, making his arguments feel urgent. And while his vivid and imaginative language can be unsettling as it questions deeply held beliefs, this boldness is what makes Nietzsche's work powerful and lasting. Effective.
Now let's get into his juicy critique of morality. Nietzsche finds the study of morals uninteresting and tedious, aka boring. For him, morality has become this stale and examined area of thought. He sees traditional morality, especially Judeo-Christian values, as a restrictive force that dampens human vitality and spirit. But here's some interesting information. He believes that focusing too much on moral kills human vitality. He even hoped that the study of morals will stay boring, so people wouldn't get stuck in moral thinking. Talk about savage, right? I bet it made him rattle a bit.
Wait, there's more. He also came up with the famous line, "Is moralizing not immoral?" He argues that moralizing is immoral itself. That's because for him, it forces one person's or society's values onto others, which reduces individuality or personal freedom for him. He believes that when people try to make their moral standards universal, it starts to become a form of control and oppression. For him, true morality must come from within, instead of just accepting those imposed by society. In this way, moralizing is harmful because it stifles individual creativity and the will to power. I actually kind of agree with this one. While moral dogmatism can limit personal growth by enforcing strict rules, some shared moral understanding is essential for social harmony to protect others from harm.
Exactly, I kinda agree. When you enforce rigid morals on people, you limit their freedom and personal growth. But we still need some shared rules to prevent chaos, right? Nietzsche also introduces these two types of morality: master morality and slave morality. Master morality is all about the strong, the powerful, and the noble. They are the ones who create and determine the values, and in their eyes, they are never wrong. They don't need anyone's approval. Their power alone makes their judgment automatic. They help the less fortunate, but not out of sympathy. It's more about boosting their own ego. They don't really care to empathize with others. They must be honored for their power and dominion over the weak. Their belief and prejudices always work in their favor. It is intimidating for the slaves, and this leaves them with no choice but to submit to the nobles' values. For the masters, what's good and bad is based purely on how things benefit them.
And then there's slave morality, which flips the script, labeling the powerful as bad and elevating the weak as good. It's a way for the weak to cope, basically. And you can see how this ties into his God is dead moment, right?
Totally, and his whole will to power theory is the foundation of everything. It's all about power dynamics. For Nietzsche, life is a constant struggle for dominance, and even morality is just a way to navigate the struggle. He doesn't see exploitation as evil. It's just part of how life works. Okay guys, let's talk about his beef with Christianity. Nietzsche called Christianity the most fatal and seductive lie that has ever yet existed. Oh, I wish he didn't. He sees Christianity as a fatal and seductive lie because it promotes values he believes deny life. He thinks it glorifies weakness, humility, meekness, and self-sacrifice, qualities that weaken human strength and vitality. According to him, Christianity reverses natural values by celebrating the weak over the strong and the collective over the individual. What troubles him the most is that it suppresses the will to power, urging people to submit to a higher authority and ignore their instincts and desires. He believes that this moral system leads to mediocrity and stagnation, calling for a war against Christianity to free humanity from its constraints. I agree with some of Nietzsche's critique about how religious beliefs can manipulate people, but I also believe that for many, Christianity offers meaning and moral guidance that can be affirming rather than denying. Nietzsche despised what he called the morality of paltry people, or those who cling to weak, restrictive morals that deny life. These people, according to him, are small-minded and limit themselves by following a morality that serves to hold them back. Nietzsche sees the New Testament as fostering a sense of moral superiority, where little bigots, for example, like unqualified and prejudiced believers, claim authority on existential problems. He argues that reading the New Testament gives rise to an unsettling feeling because it is rooted in resentment and falsehoods about life's true nature. He thinks that Christians cling stubbornly to these beliefs and impose their morality on others, seeing those outside their faith as inferior.
Nietzsche believes that asceticism, especially religious asceticism, is a hidden form of denying life. Practices like self-denial, chastity, and giving up worldly pleasures are seen as moral virtues, but Nietzsche argues that they actually reject life. He views them as expressions of deep resentment toward life, like trying to escape or devalue the material world for an imagined ideal. In reality, these practices suppress our natural instincts and desires, denying life instead of embracing it.
Did you know that Nietzsche also argues that the key aspect of history is the struggle between different wills of power? Yes. He believes that history isn't shaped by abstract concepts like reason or morality, but by the conflicts among individuals, classes, and nations trying to gain and expand their power. This struggle appears in politics, culture, religion, and morality, where groups impose their values on others to stay in control. Nietzsche's perspective sees history as a constant battle for power, rejecting the idea of steady moral or intellectual progress.
Oh gosh, he was really an antichrist. Guys, could you even imagine that for him, denying God would help us save the world? He believes that for humanity to reach its full potential, it must reject the existence of God. He argues that belief in God, particularly the Christian God, promotes a worldview that undervalues life on earth in favor of an imaginative afterlife. So for him, by denying God, people can free themselves from religious moral constraints, embrace their natural instincts, and create new values that celebrate life. According to Nietzsche, only by rejecting divine authority can individuals take full responsibility for their lives and create their own meaning. Oh no, he did not.
Oh girl, I'll tell you more. He didn't hold back when he described Christians as little lying abortions of bigotry. He thought that they were hypocrites, preaching humility but secretly being envious and resentful of the strong. While Christians claim to value humility, charity, and love, Nietzsche believes that these traits often hide feelings of resentment and envy towards the strong. He sees Christian morality as a way for the weak to impose their values on the strong, masking their own powerlessness as moral superiority. The use of terms like God, truth, love, and the Holy Spirit is a part of a delusional system where Christians falsely assume they have the ultimate measure of things.
Don't even start with the whole love your enemies nonsense. Nietzsche's like, no sweetie, nature's way is to love your neighbor and totally wreck your enemies. He compares natural laws which help preserve communities with Christian morality, which he sees as unnecessary and even harmful to human instincts. Christians argue that religion prevents immoral behavior by regulating thoughts, but Nietzsche sees this as stripping humanity of its natural capacity for independent thought and action. Introducing God into morality corrupts natural human ethics. For example, Christianity's command to love your enemies goes against the natural inclination to protect and love those close to us and resist those who harm us.
Nietzsche critiques Christianity for promoting an ideal of man that emasculates or strips away vital, natural qualities such as strength and power. Just as a eunuch is stripped of his physical manhood, Christianity strips man of their spiritual strength by promoting ideals of meekness, submission, and self-sacrifice. Nietzsche acknowledges that Christianity is seductive because of its promises of goodness and purity, but argues that it is ultimately degenerating the humanity, attracting followers with false hope.
Nietzsche advocates for a spiritual war against Christianity, challenging its ideals through philosophical and intellectual opposition rather than physical violence. Nietzsche's recipe is like a battle plan for your soul. So, for the first recipe, you deny the validity of the old ideal and declare it to be the opposite of truth. You have to destroy the old ones, like for example, call them evil or spread rumors. It's like saying fetch isn't going to happen, then convincing everyone it's the worst word ever.
Next step, once your ideal is set, you project it into everything. It's like making your way of thinking the new religion. Either people get in line or they are the enemy. It's either you are with us or you're against us.
Third recipe, anyone opposing the new ideal is considered an enemy of the new truth and is seen as morally wrong or dangerous. If people go against your ideal, make them the villain. Like if they don't follow, their lives are going to be miserable, all because they're not on your side.
The fourth recipe, all forms of suffering should be attributed to the opposition to the new ideal. This suffering is a punishment for resisting the new truth, but for Nietzsche, suffering is just natural. It's like proof that you are winning in life.
For the fifth recipe, suffering becomes a natural condition and a trial for those who embrace the new ideal. You suffer because you're chosen, because you're better. And finally, step 6. All this suffering leads to the ultimate triumph. It's like the spiritual version of the prom queen crown. The final triumph of this anti-natural ideal is projected as the coming of the kingdom of God, a world of ultimate goodness, purity, and sinlessness. This offers false hope that enduring suffering will lead to eternal reward.
Here's another. Nietzsche describes Jews as living a parasitic existence. believing that they historically survived by exploiting the moral systems of other societies. Like, oh my gosh. He claims that Judaism created a moral code which influenced Christianity that allowed the weak to manipulate the strong through guilt and inverted natural hierarchies. This critic is a part of his broader attack on slave morality, which he sees as a system created by the powerless to undermine the powerful. However, this view reflects Nietzsche's own biases, which are controversial and widely criticized today.
Nietzsche believes that Christianity grew out of Judaism, taking on concepts like guilt, sin, and an emphasis on weakness. He views Judaism as the origin of slave morality, which I just discussed earlier, and which later became part of Christianity. Both religions, in his opinion, promotes values that deny life and go against natural strength and power. He thinks Judaism focused on qualities like humility and obedience, and that Christianity spread these ideas around the world.
Nietzsche also argues that psychologists, philosophers, and scholars tend to view the world through a moral lens, which he calls a moral idiosyncrasy. Basically, he says that they judge human behavior too much through a moral lens, instead of looking at it as driven by instincts like the will to power. He believes that this moral viewpoint distorts their understanding and prevents them from seeing the true motivations behind human behavior.
Agree with me on this one. Some of his explanations got a point, but most of them, it might hurt the Christians or might even be an insult to them. It's like, stop moralizing everything and start seeing people for who they really are. Nietzsche wants us to recognize that power dynamics are at the heart of everything we do.
One thing's for sure, he has a massive hate on Christianity. Nietzsche was out here burning all the bridges with his critique of morality, Christianity, and everything in between. He even wrote the ultimate burn book for it entitled Burn Christianity.
So I guess that's all for our gossip of today. And I'll see you next time. You too, girl. I got a lot of things to do. Bye.